everyone, it's Nina and Merry Christmas. I'm going to be sharing a few projects with you today on reusing some of that wrapping paper and gift wrap that you have left over from opening all of your gifts this morning. So I've got a bunch of leftover scraps of wrapping paper and I've got some gift bags. I've even got a lid to a box, one of those folding boxes. And I'm going to show you how you can use all of these different pieces to make some fun and really cute thank you cards. So after all of our Christmas gifts, we need to be able to send out some thank you cards. So this is a perfect way to not only reuse that leftover wrapping paper and gift wrap that's so beautiful and use it on cards and also make some thank you cards too as well. So why don't I show you some ideas for how you can use some of these things. So I'm going to start off with the gift bags. I have these gift bags that have these really cute little animals included on them. You can use gift bags that have maybe scenes on them or little critters or whatever types of things you might have on your gift bags. You can use those things if you just simply cut them out. I'm going to trim this bag down so I can grab the front of this bag, which has the moose, and it's also got one that's a snowman, and I also have one that's a polar bear. I'm going to start off first by just cutting the moose out with a rectangle die. This is a Wrap Stitches rectangle die set from Memory Box, and I just trimmed the moose down and I added him onto a Nina Desert Storm card base, and instantly you already have a really cool card. I wanted to dress mine up a little bit more to make them a little bit more interesting and show you how you can really embellish these to make these look like really cool cards. Now before I get started on decorating the moose, I'm also going to take that polar bear and I'm going to attach him down onto some Desert Storm cardstock as well. The gift bags are a little bit on the thinner side, so what I'm doing is I'm attaching this polar bear down onto the Desert Storm cardstock before I fussy cut him out. I decided I wanted him to be fussy cut. And that's just giving the paper a little bit more stability and a little bit easier way for me to be able to cut this out without having to worry about ripping the paper or anything. So I'll trim the little polar bear out also, and that'll leave me with a really cute image that looks like it's been die cut. After I've fussy cut out the bear, I can add him down onto a card as well. Now these are all 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch cards, so you can see that these images fit onto these cards nicely, and most images that you have from your gift bags or gift wrap will fit on your cards really nicely if you're creative with them. So here I'm taking some snowflake dies, and my little sister was helping me sort out the snowflakes, and I'm going to use the snowflakes from the Sensational Snowflakes die set and add these onto my polar bear scene. And these snowflakes really embellish the card nicely. I could have used the snowflakes that were on the gift bag itself, but I wanted to try to incorporate some of my crafting supplies into these cards also. So those snowflakes really add some fun interest to the background. I added some googly eyes onto his eyes as well. And then for a sentiment, I pulled out this really great thank you messages stamp set from Hero Arts, and I'm stamping this banner which says thanks on some Nina Desert Storm cardstock in Schoolhouse red ink. Now I stamped this down onto the Desert Storm cardstock because the bear was on a craft colored bag, so I wanted to make sure that all of the areas around the bear had some craft in them also, so it helped coordinate everything all together. I even added some Nouveau white gloss drops onto the background also, just for a little bit more interest. Now to finish up the moose, I'm going to take some sentiments which I created from that same thank you messages stamp set. That thank you messages set has tons of great greetings and some great fonts, and really you can find just about any type of greeting that you need from that sentiment set, which is from Hero Arts. So I added those down onto some banners along the side of the card, and then I also took again some more Nouveau drops and added those over top of some of the white snowflakes that were already on the paper, and I also added a few extras just to make the background a little bit more full. Now you'll also notice I added some white details to the moose also. It's fun to take some gel pens or other types of markers and just add some really fun embellishing to your images that you might have from your gift wrap. Another great way to reuse gift wrap is to take the background patterns and create really cool backgrounds on your cards. So you might recognize this pattern from that gift box that I showed you at the beginning of the video. This was about 8 by 11 inches when I cut this down to get the sides off of the box. By selectively picking where I wanted to cut out the patterns, I was able to get a total of 3 rectangles from that paper. If you didn't want to worry about what you were getting in your pattern, you could probably get about 4 cards from it. So I took a craft heart, which I cut with a wonky heart die set from Simon. I'm going to pop that up with some foam tape onto the front of the card. And I also cut a set of greetings from the Thank You script die set from Pretty Pink Posh. And what I did was I cut this about 3 times from some craft cardstock. Then I layered those all together to create a more dimensional and sturdier sentiment. Once I had added all of those stacked up on top of each other, I also took a 4th layer, which was cut from some emerald green mirror cardstock from Tonic Studios. And I layered that on top of that craft stack, and that creates a really great dimensional sentiment that pops off of the heart nicely and also has a great green foiled effect, which looks really great with this background panel. I also took some sequins from Pretty Pink Posh's Mermaid mix, and I added these in and around some of the pattern areas of this background. Now, you don't have to add the sequins, you could have left it as is, but I liked filling it in a little bit more, and the extra pops of green and gold and even some teal really complemented the background nicely and helped finish it off. I added one more final detail onto this background by taking some fine tech gold watercolors and covering over the brown colors that are in that background panel. Now, you don't have to do this, and this was a little bit tricky because the paper is a bit slick because it's one of those cardboard boxes. But if I let that dry and then came back in with a second layer, I was able to get a pretty good solid covering over top of each of these areas that I added the gold details to. So you just have to be patient and add a second layer, but it does create a really great impact by adding that gold accenting with those gold sequins and the beautiful red and green. It's a really striking card design. This is a really great way to be able to reuse some of those patterned gift boxes that you might have from holding some of your gifts that you got for Christmas. Alright, now we all probably have leftover wrapping paper from our Christmas gifts. So I wanted to use some of the wrapping paper that I had left over from wrapping my own Christmas gifts and using that to create some really beautiful backgrounds behind some die cuts. Now, the paper I have is a foiled paper, and I thought that would look really nice behind the Snowflake Felicity die set from Simon Says Stamp. So I took 2 pieces of 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch paper, and I added some double-sided tape over each piece. That's going to allow me to then take the wrapping paper, after I remove the adhesive backing on the double-sided tape, it's going to allow me to lay the wrapping paper on top of this paper. And this is going to make the wrapping paper feel more sturdy. It's also going to make it easier for me to be able to apply it down onto my card. It's not going to warp as easily. So by taking that extra step in applying the wrapping paper down onto a piece of cardstock before doing any die cutting or attaching it onto a card, this really saves you some time and also makes the finished card look even more beautiful. So now that I have my papers prepped, I'm going to take the Felicity die set and cut it into a piece of white cardstock. One is going to be the frame that's going to sit on top of my wrapping paper, and then the die cut piece, I contemplated first just inlaying it into the original die cut area, but then I thought it'd be more fun if I offset it. I think Sherry Carroll had done this on an example she had done for December, and I really love the way that the snowflake die looks when it's a little bit offset from its original footprint. So I'm taking some of the double-sided foam tape from 3M, and I'm going to add this to the back side of the panel and pop this right over top of my foiled wrapping paper. Once I've attached this down, I'm going to take some liquid glue and add the snowflake on top. This time I'm laying it down into where the original die cut was, but I'm making sure to put the points in a different area than where they originally were supposed to go. And I also embellished it a bit by taking some of the bridal mix gems from Lucy's cards and adding that onto each point of the snowflake. There's a beautiful script thanks die set from Echo Park that I thought looked really beautiful with this style of card. So I took 3 layers of the thanks in some white cardstock and stacked them all together. And then I put a final layer of this beautiful electric purple mirror cardstock from Tonic Studios and applied that onto the top of that stack of white die cuts. Then I'm going to take a little bit of foam tape into the center areas of that die cut and also some liquid glue on the 2 end letters, and I'm going to lay this right in the center of my snowflake. This is creating a really cool layered effect because I only applied the snowflake down in the center area of that Felicity snowflake down onto the card, and the rest of it's kind of got a dimensional appearance, and so now the sentiment's on top of that with almost looking like it's been floating on top of the card. It's a really fun effect. Now there's a beautiful sentiment set from Birch Press, and I really love the sentiment that says, "To my crafty friend." So in the end, my card reads, "Thanks to my crafty friend," and I heat embossed the sentiment in some silver embossing powder onto a little banner, and then I popped that entire piece onto a purple card base. I did create this card in 2 different colors. I have the beautiful purple and teal color combination, and then I also have a pink and purple combination, and I really liked the look of both cards. This particular wrapping paper has so many different colors in it, you could almost use any color with this wrapping paper to create some fun cards. Okay, finally, one more idea for you. I have some beautiful die cuts that I had created from wrapping paper also. Now again, when you want to do some die cutting with the wrapping paper, you're going to want to go ahead and prep it first and have a layer of cardstock underneath to help make the wrapping paper a little bit more sturdy, because that's going to help you cut more intricate dies even easier. So I took a piece of double-sided tape and laid my wrapping paper on top of it. And then I'm going to take the Sensational Snowflakes die set from Simon Says Stamp and die cut this paper with that die. Now that's leaving me with these beautiful foiled looking snowflakes. And there are some white areas also because there are some white snowflakes in the foiled wrapping paper. So it's creating a really fun two-toned effect on these snowflakes. I took another one of those paper bags that I had left over, and I'm going to cut that out with a stitched rectangle die and then lay these snowflakes on top. And that's embellishing this card really nicely. You can see that there was some snowflakes already on this paper. However, I'm just taking these snowflakes and covering over the snowflakes that were previously there. I liked how the foiled effect matched nicely with the silver foil that's in the paper bag itself. So that really finished off the card nicely. I embellished the snowman a little bit by adding some blush to his cheeks with a Copic marker and even some white gel pen details with a Signo broad pen. Now for a sentiment, I was really liking the sentiments that were in the Thank You Messages stamp set. It's become one of my favorites right now. And so I took one of the sentiments that says "Warmest Thanks." I thought that matched really nicely with the snowman. And I stamped that down onto some red cardstock, and I'll emboss this with some silver embossing powder. Now, the snowman's holding a candy cane that's pink, and I thought that would be really fun to pull in just a little bit of pink to help complement that candy cane because it's the only pink piece in the card. So I took a bit of pink baker's twine and tied that around my sentiment banner, and that's a little extra detail that really draws the entire card together. Finally, I used some Nuvo glitter drops to add some embellishing to the snow hill that I cut here with a Lawn Fawn die, and I even added some of that onto the pom-pom of his hat. One more final detail was taking some of that same gel pen and adding some snow into the background to help finish off the card and fill in the background a little bit more. I hope these ideas have given you some inspiration for reusing some of the wrapping paper and gift bags and boxes that you might have left over from your Christmas gifts. I hope you all have a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. I will see you next week for another video tutorial, and until then, thanks for watching.